Travis Wingoodsell, back from my run. This is for ex-Mormons. Well, whoever's going to watch is going to watch, but I'm catering this to those who have left the church. Even if you've not officially left the church, but you just don't go anymore, you're included in this, because you're like me. I'm checking my YouTube channel, and I see right up as the recommended ABC4 Utah have a video called COVID-19 Testing Increase. They're advertising 5,234 testing increase today. I just want to scream. Why aren't they talking about the 7,000 day we just had a few days ago? You think that would be the big one to talk about? Because that was the record breaker. In the beginning, Herbert was testing up to 5,000, depending on the amount of new cases. You know, he tried to keep it below 200. And so he would go up to 5,000 because 5,000 was around the amount that was just under 200 new cases. And so obviously he didn't test at 5,000 every day. He sometimes went to 4,000 or 3,000 or 2,000, depending on how many new cases came in. And so he would shut it down at a certain point of the day. That was one of the scandals, because if we were to test at more than 200 for 2 weeks in a row, Herbert couldn't lower us to where we are now, green. I think we're still at yellow, but I think there are some that are wanting green. But we'd have to stay at orange to this day, and we would. Literally, if he tested 5,000 every single day for this whole time, we would be over 200 per day for more than 2 weeks, and we would not have been allowed to go down to yellow and open up businesses, etc., etc. And so the 7,000, I was shocked that he no longer cares about the numbers. He's refusing to take us back to orange, and we've been over 200 for quite a while now. And so that just, it infuriates me. So, as Mormons, you probably were like me in the beginning, burned out on religion. But I still had a lawsuit and need to carry forward. Well, that's what invigorated me to get back into doing the research. Well, actually, got burned out, took a break, because I had just gotten divorced. That came part and parcel. The full-on attack was to take away my wife from me, and then expose me to being all by myself so that they can then attack me directly. It's amazing how when you get YouTube in trouble, YouTube lifts their ban. And so now I'm getting high numbers on my videos. I mean, it's not what it should be yet, but we're now beginning in the process of increasing numbers. Because, for example, yesterday, I can throw in yesterday's, or 2 days ago. So, the 27th, 53 views for my LDS Church Fails to Remember Joseph Smith. 46 for the docket silence by Judge Orberg. 74 on the 26th for the reading of my immediate final judgment motion. I mean, a reading? it's 30 minutes, so it's not that bad. I mean, the church fails to remember Joseph was longer, at 50 minutes. But yeah, these are not the normal numbers that I've been getting, and it's because I finally put YouTube on notice. You are tampering with a federal case, and there you go. Again, they prove that they've been shadow banning me. And so now we're in the beginning stages now where I have to build up my clientele or customer base, but it's not, you're not buying anything, viewer base. And so in a year from now, I'll be back up to normal if YouTube continues to leave me alone. And so 96 on the 25th with my final video to Utah Mormons. 79 for Utah Mormon governor refuses to close again to protect LDS prophets. 102 for New York bans LDS missionaries. And so yeah, there's a big difference now that YouTube has been put on notice. So I don't know if you guys are in a position to want religion back in your life. I know there are a number of you who have pursued Christianity. The Bakers, for example, went to Christianity, but he then has now turned to Judaism. Interestingly, that Jews are Christians, but they don't refer themselves to as Christians or Messianic people. That's what a Christian is a Messiah in Hebrew. And so they don't think of themselves as that, they just say Jews. But their symbol is the Star of David, not the Magen of David, which is the full shield here, just the star. And so the Star of David is on the Israeli flag, and thus they are Christian because David is the Messiah, and they're waiting for a man to return to restore the kingdom of David. Thus they're waiting for the Messiah. But Christians don't look for that man. They're looking for the gospel narrative character named Jesus. Because the gospel narratives say that he failed, they're waiting for him to return a second time to do it right and save the Jews and save everybody and become the king of the world. And so Christians have a completely different take on what the Jews have had this whole time, but yet they're both Christian. Christian being the Greek word for anointed, Messiah being the Hebrew word for anointed. But nobody wants to acknowledge that because, well, we have to segregate and be racist. Which is actually not racism because we're the human race, and so if you're racist, you're anti-human. Which, yeah, but it's more ethnic. You're anti-ethnic group. But the news keeps perpetuating the incorrect definitions of things. Like conspiracy theory, they keep promoting the wrong definition of conspiracy theory because it's not fake news. Conspiracy theory is a scientific process by which you confirm or deny whether a theory is correct or not. Investigators into crime, police investigators, they use theories to present a case before a prosecution. But it's just because I'm looking at one person who has left the church in my held for review comments. She's indicated at the beginning that she has been unable to have somebody to vent and so she found me, and I'm allowing her to vent. So she's asking me a question on this one. I'm going to have to respond, but otherwise I've just been accepting all of her videos and not responding, just because she's indicated that she's been wanting to. She's cracking jokes. Okay, I'll come to these later. So I'm not sure if you guys are ready to resume a search for a religion in your life. I need to come to you. Okay. Deal with that later. And so, being burned as badly as the church has burned us can scar us for life. That baggage, that scarring mentally, can completely turn us off from religion altogether. Christianity is a comfort religion, because we can get away with whatever we want. In Christianity, I'm sorry, Christians, you can claim that you're a solid, sound argument church. You're not. But just because you haven't been caught in any sex scandal yet, like Catholic priests or the evangelical televangelists, doesn't mean that you're not guilty of the prosperity gospel or other criminal scams that you're pulling off and deceiving your members with, and thus also contributing to the Mormon Church's attempt to destroy all Christianity altogether, which was Albert Pike's recommendation for destroying the religions of the world so that they can then join the Mormon Church, which is the Church of Lucifer. He says that, the doctrine of Lucifer. And so which church has the doctrine of Lucifer? The Church of Lucifer. How do you identify the Church of Lucifer? By their sign, the inverted pentagram. And so yes, the Mormons have the inverted pentagram on the door, keystone door of the door of the temple, which means that the principles taught within the temple are Luciferian doctrine. It's not complicated, it's very simple, but it took me until I got married there with the wife that was forced apart from me, and we're now divorced as a result, and then everybody that attacked me because I'm a translator. And was on the, but because they did that, I did research into church history, and then found out that it's not the true church, because Brigham Young had Joseph Smith murdered, as I point out from the video yesterday. And so, the wedding photos, I've noticed other people's wedding photos and missionary photos cut off the keystone. Searching online, I recognize that. Donna, our Relief Society president at the time, was one of the photographers at our wedding. She included the keystone. And as a result, I then checked it again after finding out about the Seagull Gate. My God. And sure enough. And so, I put that on the lawsuit filing that I have with the church. And that shocked everybody. And so now we're in this position. So the filing that I filed on Friday morning, which, yes, the clerks did file on the docket, they just didn't give me any email notification this time. They're pissed at me because I exposed them in the previous one on the 7th and the 5th. And so everybody is involved in tampering with the case to protect the church. And so that's what happened. Was in this last filing on Friday morning, I was able to expose further people involved in protecting this case because Judge Oberg is delaying, which is uncharacteristic for her. When she got started, denial. And so on June 5th and 7th, I had to file and say, now listen here. And that shut her down. And now she's hesitating. And so again, I had to remind her Friday morning, your hesitation now exposes you again. You were too quick in the beginning, now you're too slow. And as a result of your being too slow, there are more crimes being committed during this time frame, which you, Judge Oberg, are facilitating. And so Governor Herbert has now been included, and YouTube has been included, which, like I said, they've now been lifting their shadow ban, as people are now beginning to recognize me freely without any restrictions from YouTube analytics. And pointed out again what has been going on since my last filing on the 5th and 7th. As other people that were named in the 5th and the 7th are now behaving, and so other people instead are now using their influence to attack me. And so again, I reminded Judge Oberg that her delay is causing harm to me, and there have been another death threat since my last filing, and so my life is in danger for exposing the church and having this lawsuit. They are not going to just let this go away if they get Oberg to give them the win. So that's the Mormon church we all grew up in, and I'm the person who exposed it to its fullness. It's not just making an accusation, it's tying everything together. Because lawsuits are not based on your emotional feelings of hatred towards another person. You know, like the Karens that they're calling them now, who call on people to have the police punish them for whatever reason, whether they're black or whether they're a neighbor who did not want to do something that they wanted them to do. So they get police to, arrest them and ruin their lives. Because when you're arrested, your life is ruined. But lawsuits are about having evidence and taking that evidence to a judge to say, hey, look, this is the evidence of crimes being committed against me. I need help. Please help me. And then the judge says, agreed. The evidence does show a crime has been committed against you by the person you're accusing. And so that's what I've done. I presented evidence in the motions after the complaint, but in the complaint I made a number of accusations. It's the evidentiary hearing where I would present the evidence for the accusations. But because of the delays, the motions required me to give some clues as to the evidence that I have. And that's why everybody got shocked on the filing on the 5th and the 7th. It's because I presented evidence. And that was only a sample of the evidence. Because I mentioned in those filings that these would be used as evidence in the evidentiary hearing. But I was calling for a final judgment because of the behaviors and confessions of the defendant and defense counsel. And being late. So, yeah, it's uncharacteristic for Judge Oberg to be so slow now after confession of guilt and being late by the defense counsel. And so, to now go back to religion again, I don't know if you understood that Joseph's original religion was Jewish mysticism, with a background in Egyptian, and that came from the Yorkites Freemasonry that the Smiths were involved in, the Knights Templar being the highest rank of the Yorkites. And so the buried Egyptian gold treasure plates, that came from the Knights Templar. With Joseph's Jewish mysticism, Joseph Sr.'s Jewish mysticism training and education with the New Israelites in Vermont, that's where the Tree of Life dream comes in. There's a difference from Judaism. There's a break. So even though they were looking, Joseph Sr. was making his son, Junior, that Messiah to save the Jews. Unfortunately, the enemy that they were trying to warn us about in the Book of Mormon found out about them and infiltrated their organization, and now the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Utah. But they were trying to make Joseph Jr. that Messiah of the Jews to restore the kingdom of David. That's the original intention of this religion. Of course, Joseph was murdered. Joseph even said he was going to be murdered, that there were those among the organization that wanted him dead, in his 19 July 1840 talk. And I had taken notes again about what actual scriptures we're supposed to have, not what we got. And so as I was lying in bed last night, that's what I had taken notes on. But the 19 July 1840 talk would also be included in the Doctrine and Covenants, as we would remove Section 132 and others that were not by Joseph Smith. Section 103 says very clearly from Joseph that a future Mormon in the apostate church, he knew, would rise up, be born and raised in the church, and turn to recognize the symbols of Lucifer from Helaman chapter 6, the signs, words, and covenants of Lucifer, the secret Gadianton band, and be like Moses, to stand up against Pharaoh in the courts and free the Mormons. during a coronavirus, of all things. Unbelievable. It just blows my mind. But like I said, I don't know if you guys are still burned out, or if you want a religion in your life again, or if you are even interested in Joseph's actual religion, because we never really got to experience it. We got Brigham's version instead, and the modifications since when the United States government stepped in. So yeah, no polygamy, but we got a whole bunch of other crap. So like the Constitution for America, I don't know if you understand that we've never fully implemented the Constitution in America. We have still no idea what it will be like if we were to follow the Constitution. I'll give you a hint. We're not supposed to have our current elections as we're having them. This is not how it works. You don't have a presidential candidate who has a vice presidential candidate that we vote for. It was originally intended that we have a number of candidates running for president, then we the people vote, the Electoral College then makes their vote, and the person with the most votes, and I think it had to be a certain number above the others, but they become president. The vice president is second place. I was shocked when I read that. I was like, we never did that with King George, with George Washington. I don't know if we even had an election. If we did, I don't know. But let me Google search this, find out, since I'm asking, and since I can more quickly find out answers to questions. Did George Washington get elected president? The first presidential election was unanimously elected with 69 electoral votes. Okay, so they did have an election, and yeah, as you can see, it was 69 electoral votes. New York, however, failed to field a state of electors. So interesting. So yeah, there's some history behind this. But yeah, no vice presidential candidate here. I don't know if he had a vice president. But yeah, it was unanimous. Okay, so but yeah, to have police forces throughout our nation, find them in the Constitution. They don't exist. The Space Force, Trump signed it into law, or an act. I don't think it's a law. Where are the others that we have that have been added since the Constitution? Constitution designates certain military branches, just not some of the extras that we have, and especially not the Space Force, and not actual police forces. None of that is in there. They're supposed to be in the Constitution, and they're supposed to have a vote of the states. States have to ratify such an action in order to be implemented. Our federal government can't just say, oh, we're going to create a space force, there you go, we now have a space force. Not the way it's supposed to be done. And so yeah, police agencies, you know, none of this would have happened with a police officer being a white supremacist putting his knee on George Floyd to take away his life. And none of that would have happened because we weren't supposed to have police forces. We were supposed to have a militia, which are still supposed to be trained. That's what the Second Amendment says. But they are on call, like our fire department, like our EMTs. like our search and rescue, on call. We call 911 now. They didn't have that back then, but now we do. And so, yeah, we call up, say, hey, I just witnessed a murder. The police would come out, which would be the militia, and an investigation would commence as all the evidence would be sent to the prosecutors, because the state has prosecutors to file on behalf of victims, and the accused would get a free defense counsel to defend them. No money is supposed to be involved. They're not supposed to be bail that extorts you, that destroys your life financially. But yeah, we've never followed the Constitution in America. We have no idea what it would be like if we were to follow the Constitution. Just like in the church, we have no idea what Joseph's original intentions for the church would be if we were to have followed it. So the question is, do we want a religion that Joseph Smith was intending? Do we want to follow the Constitution? Because Joseph clearly said, and even in this 1840 talk, the Constitution will need to be saved one day. That's the warning in the Book of Mormon, that a king would be placed on the throne of America and thus destroy the Constitution. A constitutional republic is what we were supposed to have. We now have a monarchy again, as the whole representative republic, and in battle with a communist government. Communism is socialist republic. That's how they were able to sneak it in to our nation, is because Article 4 says we're supposed to have a republican form of government. And so, yeah, communism snuck in because it's a socialist form of republic. Then fascism was able to sneak in, which is a representative republic. And now we have a monarchy because of that clash of communism and fascism. We got played as chumps. Just like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints played us for chumps. Because we were born and raised into the church. We were born and raised in America. And so we don't know what the original intention for the Constitution was and what Joseph Smith's religion was. And we were supposed to save the Constitution. Well, we don't know what it was that we're supposed to be saving. And instead we're fighting against the other issues that have violated our Constitution, like police officers. So now we're debating, well, what do we do with police now? Do we re-educate them to not be white supremacist? Sorry, that ain't gonna work. They won't change. Do we make them like firefighters, that they have to be stuck at the station until we, the people, call them? Do we defund them so that they don't have as much money to do what they do, or that we funnel the money into other programs? I'm greatly concerned that everybody wants mental health to get the money. I mean, have you not learned? Police make their money by the number of clients they get, which means busting people for crime. And so, again, psychiatrists, they make their money from the number of clients they have. So if you're going to fund money into a different organization that is dependent on clients, you're going to cause another major problem. And with psychiatry and therapy and counseling, they don't use science. And they're giving out drugs without the use of science. They're telling people to get over the trauma they've experienced as a victim, which is further victim blaming. And they are not required to reveal any of the crimes that they commit against their clients. Client-patient or doctor-patient confidentiality it has been given to them. And so, no, we do not want that. And I am screaming, no! Communists are not right! Don't do this. That's exactly what Hitler did. You know, those who he didn't have arrested in the concentration camps were put into the mental hospitals, the asylums, where human experimentations also went on in there too. The concentration camps had those psycho doctors doing human experimentations, and the mental asylums had experimentations going on. Both the camps and the asylums. And yet we aren't learning from that, as we are now entering into that again here in America, in the New World Order of neo-Nazism. This was what the Smiths were warning us about, what we needed to save America from. So, I don't know what you guys want. There was a Jewish mystical tradition story that has been written down since, but it was about Elijah, who was walking the road one day and comes across Lilith. Lilith, in Jewish mystical literature from Alphabet Ben Sira, is the first wife of Adam. And so there's a whole story on that he writes about. And so this tradition of Elijah meeting her comes from Jewish mystical tradition. And he asks her, "Where are you going?" He's like the cop. "Halt! Where are you going? Who are you? Show me some identification." "I am powerless against you. I am Lilith, the first wife of Adam." And she was going to murder a baby, because that's what the original story of Lilith was about. Her anger that God would dare give Adam a submissive wife. And so she was vengeful and wanted to kill every single male child. And it expanded over time to include girl babies as well, but the original understanding is a male child. And so Elijah ends up making a covenant with her to say that any Jewish household, which is a later tradition, because it's any household that has this symbol, I believe. Let me see if Google has anything on that. Amulet of Elijah. Let's see if Images has it. Yep. Sure enough, it is this symbol. And it's got some markings on it. The front triangle pointing up, having the writing on it. But yeah, sure enough, just as I suspected. And so yes, the two triangles come from the Paleo-Hebrew characters similar to the Greek characters of delta, with the triangle, and are the letter D. So the double D's. Yes, in Hebrew, the double D's without the vav or wa in the middle of it for Dawood means love. So yes, women, you can now feel insecure about yourselves if you don't have enough milk for your firstborn blessing son, birthright blessing son, who gets a double portion. That's all. Everything is related to our bodies, and thus is sex ed for the ancients. But we've completely strayed from that knowledge too. And so, yeah, it's about the child Messiah who is to be born and restore the kingdom of David and save the Jews and save the house of Israel and build Zion and New Jerusalem and blah, blah, blah. And the Knights Templar designed America to be that location, to build Zion and New Jerusalem here in America. Do you want to know where? Joseph Smith in 1840 told us where, but the Knights Templar also told us where, as they came here in 1363 and bought the land from the Mandan Indian tribe and had the Kensington stone erected for that purpose, to show that the sale had been made. But there's a certain caves system in the hills in southern Illinois, which is now a national forest since the 1930s. And there, the Knights Templar had buried their Egyptian gold plates that have yet to be found. Nobody knows where to dig, and so nobody's found them. They have found other Egyptian-like plates, and it was clear that the Knights Templar were trying to do their own version of records using Egyptian, but it's clearly not actual Egyptian, but Knights Templar replicas. And so, yeah, we're very confident that they're there somewhere, just nobody can find them yet. But yeah, right there in southern Illinois. And you'll never guess that they would have known astronomy had they not buried them there. Because where does the two solar eclipses that are occurring over America cross? Southern Illinois. Huh. How did they know? Astronomy. That's how they knew. If you know astronomy, you can know when eclipses are going to happen and where they're going to happen. And it just blows my mind that they didn't have the Stellarium program that I require to figure this out. But it doesn't show me where over America per se. Well, it does, because I can, yeah, I'd have to keep, it depends on whether they have the city or not. Because the one that happened in 4 AD, I can't find the Russian equivalent where it happened. St. Petersburg is the closest. Yeah, 4 AD, there was one on 8 April also. So 20 years later, we're having one over America in a different constellation. Because constellations are also key. Because the first one then over America, on Monson's birthday, you know, that Mormon prophet, it just blows my mind again. It was the New Year's of Egyptian, also blows my mind. Occurred in the constellation of Leo at the star Regulus, which is the king star. It just blows my mind. But yeah, that's how they wrote their scripture, which is prophecy, is because they're saying, hey, on this date, there's going to be this sign, which is the date. That's how it works. When you describe the sign, you're telling the date of when the sign occurs. And so they then told the story of the symbolism behind the sign. And it just blows my mind how accurate they were. I still get people today complaining that Trump didn't destroy America way back on the 23rd of September 2017 or 21st of August 2017 or the other date of the dragon in John's Revelation 12, which was 17 December 2017, which was the 5th dark day of Hanukkah, the Jewish holiday. I mean, it just blows my mind how accurate and precise they were. But yeah, it's not Jewish mystics, it's not John, it's not Joel, it's the Egyptians. That's where all this comes from. And so, I don't know if you guys are interested in the origin of religion. I don't know if you are interested in pursuing the correct religion, having been burned out by the church, having been scarred and damaged by the church. I don't know if you're going to be interested in a correct government, as we've never implemented the constitutional republic that we were supposed to have. I know exactly how to design it. I have already, but I don't know if you guys are interested. Technically, because of becoming a Melchizedek priesthood holder in the Mormon church, I am qualified to start my own religion under the United States government. But I don't have the funding to start my own religion. I already know the scriptures that are necessary to start it. I know the doctrine, the correct doctrine that would implement it. It's a science religion, if you didn't know, based on science. That faith is actually theory tests. I don't know if you guys are interested, but just so that you know, there is a better way. There is that hope that there was something better for us. We just were overcome by the enemy, who are now destroying us. So, if Oberg does side with me, I will eventually be getting the trillions of dollars some year in the future, because she's supposed to order the arrest of everybody in the church, and thus they seize everything on my behalf, and I have to wait for them to release the seizures and the money funds to me. But again, Judge Oberg is delaying, which means she's still supporting the church by delaying, rather than being quick to say no to every motion I put in. But we'll see. She can't go on like this forever. Eventually she'll have to make a decision, but we'll see. So yeah, if you guys are interested, there is hope. You can try to start your own religion. I wouldn't recommend it, because you don't have a knowledge of everything that's required, and you can't just make it because this was what makes you feel good. Oh yeah, I like this, let's try this. Because I'm concerned with what's going on right now with the Black Lives movement, which we had previously, the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement turned into the cancel culture movement, as women were, and gay men also, they were starting to make false accusations just to destroy people's lives. And that's what canceled the Me Too movement, by canceling the lives of innocent people. That's what they're going to be doing here with the Black Lives Movement. I've already seen attempts by it. White supremacists are holding signs and stuff that say White Lives Matter, and I've seen police, again, bringing back up the Blue Lives Matter. And so, yeah, Black Lives Matter is under attack right now because they did it wrong. They don't have leadership here either. They have the traditional leaders, Al Sharpton and others, trying to get people to mobilize, but they're not taking leadership per se. They're just the go-to voices during certain conditions when a black man is innocently murdered. The problem comes when people think that you fight fascism with fascism, you fight sexism with sexism, you fight racism with racism. And that's what I'm witnessing here, is that I understand betrayal for a discriminated category. As Mormons, we were betrayed by the church. And yes, I want the church completely destroyed, shut down, disappeared, non-existent, but it's the church organization, not the Mormons. And that's the difference, is because with the Me Too movement, it was about women being abused and suppressed and oppressed and sex trafficked and beaten and raped, and yes, that needs to stop. But it's supposed to be done through the court process. You take the person accountable through the courts. And our system refused to do that. They called it a he said, she said argument. And so only when the woman was physically beaten and she went to the hospital and had the cops do a rape kit, as you now have evidence of a rape, that things were able to be accomplished. When you have a situation where a man gets you pregnant and you have no bruising, or you didn't go to the hospital because you were so shocked and ashamed and afraid for your religion that would banish you and excommunicate you and ban you from BYU, you heal. And so you don't have those scars, you don't have the semen. The baby does have the DNA of the father, so gang rapes, you can identify which was the father who got through, but the system failed us, and that's what needed to change. But instead, women were trying to destroy the lives of men by making an accusation. And that's what was used against them with the false accusations, to show that the system won't allow you to ever have freedom. And that's the tragedy with the Black Lives as well, is that now I'm seeing white people having guilt for what they didn't cause. It was specific individuals here. It was those officers who murdered George Floyd. It's other officers who shot blacks. It wasn't everybody. I'm not guilty of any of it. And so how do you get damages but through a court process? That's what the courts were supposed to be for. And so that's what all these movements are really supposed to focus on, is court reform. And they're not doing that. Instead, Black Lives Matter is trying to change white people. They're trying to punish police officers. And same with the Me Too movement. They were trying to punish men. They were trying to destroy men's lives because they were abused, just like Black lives. And Black lives are going further, saying, well, we want reparations. Well, where are you going to get reparations from? Well, the government's going to give it to us. Who's going to give the government the money? Taxpayers. Who pays taxes? Blacks. And so how then are you going to keep blacks from paying for reparations for themselves? Well, if you're black, then you don't pay taxes anymore. Are you also saying that they get reparations on top of that? Isn't not paying taxes reparations enough? And then how long does that go on for? How many generations? And who else? You know, Chinese Americans were slaves also to build our railroad system. Many Chinese died from being slaves to building the railroad. Don't they get reparations too? What about the Japanese who were interned in World War II? Don't they need reparations? We give reparations to American Indians. We give them their own land, even. However, as noticed with coronavirus, they are in need of extra assistance. And as a result, they're not really American, though they get to vote, depending on which country or state they're in. I think it's the Dakotas, is it, that's trying to keep their Indians from voting. But they don't get representation other than through the state. And so there's still this inequality that is involved, even if you give reparations for all the groups. You know, what about refugees? Don't they get reparations? What about the southern border immigrants? Don't they get reparations? They've been slaves on our farms, getting paid less than minimum wage, having to give to their families back in Mexico or anywhere south of the border, and still trying to survive on what little they do get. Do they get reparations? And so, again, those who haven't caused the abuse and the slavery, why should they have to pay? And so the problem is not how to figure out how to give payment through those who are not responsible. It's a redesign of our court systems to get those working right. And they just aren't. Because I had to file against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the federal courts all by myself. You know, that in and of itself is a failure of the court system. That I have no recourse, no assistance, and have to do it myself to seek justice. And there's no guarantee I'm going to get it. And so, it's the courts. We've never followed the Constitution. So remember that. Don't let them destroy the movements, but make sure your movements are focused on the right change. The shootings at the schools, people then go after gun makers. No, you go after the court systems. You say, hey, this guy came after us because he was bullied at school, and so he brought a gun to express his anger. Where were the courts to protect that kid, which then felt like he had no other recourse but to take a gun to school and murder his abusers and collateral damage along with it? The courts failed those kids who murdered other kids and teachers. And we forget that. We say, oh, the kid's mentally ill if he's white, and he's a criminal if he's black. We need to go after the gun makers, because they were putting guns in the hands of kids. No, they don't. The parents put the guns into the hands of kids. And so we just go in the wrong path. It's the courts. We need to fix the courts. We need them to follow the Constitution. We don't need specific laws of specific types of murder. We just need the courts to say, oh, okay, somebody took away your life, here's justice for you. It's not complicated, but the powers that be confuse us and make it complicated. So, that's my video for Sunday.